Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. Happy Trails is based in Sacktown, north of Shady Sands, and does most of its business with New Reno and on the road to Salt Lake City. They regularly face competition from other established companies like the Crimson Caravan for trade. After several seasons of bad trading, and since the loss of contact with New Canaan in 2281, the company is in dire financial straits and is preparing to launch an expedition to New Canaan via Zion Canyon in order to reconnect with the Mormons there. The only viable route to Salt Lake City is through Zion Canyon via the Mormon mission. They cannot take Interstate 80 there due to the lack of NCR rangers keeping the raiders at bay, and they cannot take the Ogden route because they would lose more in traveling expenses than they would make. Jed Masterson was a caravaneer who headed a Happy Trails caravan run into Zion Canyon, looking to delay Happy Trails' demise by trading with the Mormons in New Canaan, who had always been reliable for trade. This caravan run was important for the fate of Happy Trails' continued existence, so Masterson was understandably cautious when it came to anything that could slow the caravan down. He had never been to Zion before and needed someone with a Pip-Boy 3000 in order to map out the area and its natural hazards. He used to have another prospector with a Pip-Boy on prior caravan runs, but he left without a reason shortly before the expedition into Zion. Jed presumed that something must have spooked him. To this end, he was looking for any wastelander with a Pip-Boy to replace that prospector. He offered 25 caps per day and a bonus upon reaching Zion and New Canaan. The courier was able to fill this role, but was unable to protect Masterson and the other caravaneers from their untimely deaths when the caravan was ambushed by Whitelegs when they arrived in Zion. He recognizes the courier if Alice McLafferty's quests for the Crimson Caravan Company have been completed. He will also recognize the courier if they kill Alice. With a survival check of 50, one can convince Masterson that they can carry more, raising the weight limit from 75 to 100. The weight limit increase may also be achieved through the Strongback and/or Pack Rat perks, or by convincing Ricky to carry some of your equipment for you, although this does not mean you have to give your stuff to him. Jed leads the expedition to Zion for the Happy Trails Caravan Company. Upon reaching Zion Canyon, he and the other caravaneers are killed by a group of Whitelegs who ambush the group. Nothing can prevent his death since it is scripted. Ricky is a compulsive liar with a tendency to create incredible stories about himself, as he talks himself up to be a significantly greater adventurer and scavenger than he actually is. His unsubstantiated stories include the time he tricked and killed a Brotherhood of Steel paladin by shooting through the visor, fought and killed 4 Deathjaws, which are like death claws but with bigger teeth, each with a shot to their eye, and also being born in Vault 22. He was sworn to secrecy, however, so he cannot say anything about it. Ricky also carries an unhealthy addiction to Psycho and is prone to become agitated and hostile when someone doesn't believe his stories. He has in his possession a Vault 22 jumpsuit and a Pip-Boy, which is broken with a lock screen and missing reboot button, which he looted from a dead prospector in Zion. Ricky says he actually grew up near Dayglow, stating one of his useful skills to be a third nut that glows in the dark because of his high exposure to radiation in his youth. Ricky is going along on the caravan through Zion because there is good loot involved. But more importantly, Jed Masterson needs someone to map the area. Ricky accompanies the caravan to Zion Canyon. If he is not convinced to leave the group, or if the player character extorts him for caps, he will admit in a panic that his Pip-Boy does not even work during the ambush. The screen is locked up, but the button to reset the device is missing, shortly before he is killed. As with all the members of the ill-fated Happy Trails expedition, Ricky's death is a scripted event and cannot be avoided. Before leaving for Zion, the player character can call Ricky out on all his lies when the appropriate checks come up in conversation. Then, after all of Ricky's dialogue checks are used up, the player character can tell Ricky he's not cut out for the expedition, or either tell on Ricky to Jed Masterson or blackmail Ricky into carrying some of the player character's gear, thereby extending their weight limit for traveling with the Happy Trails expedition to 100. With a medicine check, the player character can see that he's a Psycho addict and can push it further by asking if he brought enough Psycho to last the trip. The player character can then sell Ricky some psycho or fixer for 30 caps per psycho, up to 10 hits, and 80 caps for a fixer. If this check is done at the very start of the add-on, it is another way to convince Ricky to ditch the trip in case of a withdrawal in the middle of the trip. Depending on how much psycho is in him, or if he has fixer available, Ricky's behavior during and immediately before the ambush may change. If the player character sold him a lot of psycho or gave him fixer, he will not cower during the attack. If he has no treatment, he will be enduring withdrawal, much to Stella's annoyance. If the courier persuades Ricky into leaving the expedition, he will agree and get angry, saying he hopes they all die in an ambush during it. This foreshadows the Whiteleg's ambush, which leaves only the courier alive. If Ricky is persuaded to leave, he will leave through the entrance and disappear from the game completely. When Ricky comments about his third nut to a female player and offers sex on the expedition, the Black Widow perk can be used to say that they will remember to bring tweezers and a microscope. With a gun skill of 30, the player character can say it will make it easier to shoot them in the dark. Ricky also comments on getting his Vault 22 jumpsuit from Vault 22, and that he has to follow his vow of secrecy. The player character can call him out on the lie if they've been to Vault 22 and say that it has been abandoned for some time, or have a perception of 7. With a science skill of 45, the courier can inform Ricky that his Pip-Boy is locked. Alternatively, with a speech check of 50, the courier can guess that the Pip-Boy is not functional and convince Ricky that Jed will believe him. Ricky cannot be attacked or receive damage from the courier in any way while waiting in the Northern Passage. If shot, struck, or any method of injury is attempted, he will not recoil from it or acknowledge it. Shortly after the completion of Happy Trails expedition and the courier's initial arrival in Zion, a group of Whitelegs will ambush the caravan, killing everyone but the courier. There is no way to save the caravan members, as their deaths are scripted, and they will die even if all but one ambusher is killed. This last ambusher is unkillable until the last member of the caravan dies. After crossing the bridge towards the rest of Zion, the courier will be attacked by a Whitelegs tribal from a distance, standing upon a large rock. This ambush will be thwarted by Follows Chalk, a scout from the Dead Horses tribe who can join the courier as a companion. It is possible to let him join immediately, or he can be sent away. If he joins the courier, he will provide a scripted commentary on the way to the Dead Horses camp. If Follows Chalk joins the courier, he will point out a hollow log that contains random minor loot. Not far down the path towards Dead Horses camp, a non-hostile giant Yaoguai will make a brief appearance in a scripted event. Further along the path, Follows Chalk will note a cliff. Climbing to the top is the first opportunity to make use of the well-stacked Cairns perk. When getting close to the Dead Horses camp, Follows Chalk will warn about traps set in the river to keep marauding Whitelegs at bay. Furthermore, if the courier wanders too far off course, he will comment and remind the player that they are supposed to be heading towards his camp. On arrival at the Dead Horses camp, the courier is told to enter Angel Cave and follow it until they find their leader, Joshua Graham. Engaging in conversation with Graham will complete the quest. One can also opt to simply kill Follows Chalk, which fails this quest and triggers Chaos in Zion. Triggering Chaos in Zion disallows participation in all other quests, in the Honest Hearts add-on, and subsequently all of its quest-related trophies. Simulation completed. Please exit the pod, or have a technician select another file.